ค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัส
สวัส
ดี
ดี
ค
ค
รั
รั
บบ
ท่านอาจารย์สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีครับอาจารย์ครับ
and we just had a very joyful start to the day because it's Sarah's birthday today, her 70th, and the swim group gave her a very rousing happy birthday and cakes and coffee and everything. So
Happy birthday
Happy birthday
thank you very much.
สวัสดีวัน birthday
Happy birthday, Sarah.
thank you Ajahn. Yes, it was a very special morning, and now we're fortunate to have the Dhamma as well. The best way to spend one's birthday.
best blessings
That's right, Ajahn. Yes, the greatest blessing,
Greatest blessing,
Dhamma
listening and
friends.
appreciating the Dhamma.
The opportunity to hear the Dhamma, for which we are very grateful to you, Ajahn, in particular. Thank you.
so we live to understand Dhamma and to help the other to understand Dhamma as much as we can do.
Yes, that's the purpose, the motivation. Thank you.
So shall we begin?
Yes, let's begin. One topic that came up briefly a little while ago, I'd like to discuss a little bit more. We were talking about the anusati and the appreciation of good deeds, understanding of cause and result under devata anusati. And I think you mentioned in passing that only the Aryan can attain upachara samadhi with this subject, devatanusati, and the appreciation of good deeds, and because of the understanding of karma and result. Would you say a little more, Ajahn, on this topic?
Can anyone understand the virtues of Deva? But any moment of understanding or kusala should be appreciated. That's why at moment of thinking about the higher kusala, not just to be born as human being, but to be born a Deva, one can appreciate that. But at that moment, it depends on the feeling, whether it's just a tukkamasukha or pleasant feeling with piti. That's why how can the one who see the danger of samsara just rising and falling away can appreciate the birth of the plane like human being and devas, which can be moment of understanding the teachings in that way. That's why just thinking about the deva can bring about joy or nothing at all. Just think about deva, that's all. That's why the one who appreciate wholesome deeds, especially the understanding of the truth, can appreciate deva in who understand the teachings and so on, that can bring joy to the degree of upachara samadhi. But upachara samadhi is not easy at all, because as much as it now appear, it can be moment of appreciate Dhamma, the truth, no matter deva or human being or anyone. That's why understanding the nature of kusala with piti of kusala can condition the moment of appreciation stage by stage until it reaches the degree of upachara samadhi. Because who understand the difference between upachara samadhi and the samadhi now, which is not upachara samadhi yet. That's why the citta has to be purer and purer and purer to reach that stage of appreciation with joy and upachara samadhi. afterward, little by little. But that cannot bring about the understanding of the truth at the degree of understanding the nature of what is there now. Otherwise, it is moment of vipassana jhana, or the degree of understanding the truth, not that which can condition upachara samadhi. It's not just remember the word, saying about the blessings or whatever is there, but the understanding. Because upachara samadhi arises with right understanding as well. And if that person is not a Aryan Savaka, it's impossible to appreciate any kind of kusala to that degree to be upachara. For example, right now, we can appreciate the other's kusala, but it is not the degree of upachara samadhi at all. All kinds of kusala is so pure. It let go the kusala at that moment, not able to arise at all. And when it's more and more calmer and calmer and calmer, it's up to the degree of samadhi, whether it is the samadhi at level of upachara or not. Those who are Arya Savaka understand the truth so clear. That's why that person knows what level of samadhi is there, because not every moment to appreciate the kusala of Deva with such degree of calmness.
When you said just a moment ago that unless it is an Aryan understanding, cannot appreciate the kusala to the degree of upachara, in that case, you're talking about the kusala, not just of calmness and great kusala, which was known before the Buddha's time, but you're talking about appreciating the kusala with understanding, with of vipassana understanding. Is that correct?
Life goes on by conditions, even after enlightenment. So there can be moment of kusala or moment of akusala, of thinking about the virtues of the Buddha, the Dhamma, or the Sangha, or Deva, see, by conditions. But the citta at that moment is purer than the person who has no understanding at level of enlightened one. That's why how can it bring about such joy, appreciate any kind of good deeds, no matter Deva or not Deva, Nusati, and so on. So all depends on conditions, and even a Sotapanna doesn't have intention to have moment of appreciate the Deva's goodness to the degree of upachara by conditions, that's all.
Because I'm familiar that, of course, with the development of calm with Buddha, the Dharma, Sangha as object must be the great understanding of the truth more and more to appreciate those qualities, but also with appreciation of Deva and Devatanu Sati. So it must also be with understanding for there to be appreciation to that degree. Is interesting.
Yes, all depends on conditions. For those who have no understanding of reality right now, can there be a moment of appreciate with joy of what is heard? See, so all depends on condition. When right understanding develop to the degree that it can understand the result, the benefit of being wholesome, the moment, the precious moment of any moment of kusala. So when it has reached the degree of understanding all dhammas as no one and nothing at all, so all depends on conditions to condition to think about the virtues of the Buddha with such and such moment of joy, of vedana, not all the time, only when there are right conditions for any moment.
And obviously, without the developed understanding and development of vipassana jnana, there cannot be the true appreciation of cause and results and the great value of good deeds to that degree.
That's why all depends on conditions. For those who have enlightened yet, they can appreciate the truth of what is heard about now, realities right now. But for the one who has enlightened, different degrees of appreciation, of understanding, even at that moment of Dhamma, before is such a degree, and after enlightenment, it's more than that degree. So at moment of thinking about the devas, anusati, it can appreciate any kind by conditions to that degree. Not always, but depend on conditions, any moment. Because the world is hidden so very thick by ignorance and attachment. So it does not appear as it is. But hearing about the truth, it can condition moment of being confident more and more, stronger and stronger, firmer and firmer, that it is right now, as we have heard. For example, the reality which experiences the object, see, it's there all the time, unknown, always there any moment. It's not absent at all, it's there, but it's not known. So when it's known, the nature of that, which has no shape and form at all, it's moment of what appears, it's there. From then on, at moment of touching, there can be moment of thinking. At that very moment, it appears like that, such that, as it's so hard or very soft and so on, whatever it is, because of a reality which is there from birth, arising and falling away, and when it's conditioned, and when there are conditions to see, it experience that. So that is seen by it at that moment. It's different from the other moment when the object does not impinge on the base and citta arises to experience it, because citta itself also arises and falls away by conditions. Imagine that moment, how clear it is, because it's moment of understanding the characteristic of citta, a reality which is the chief of experiencing whatever is there right now, no matter what is touched, is seen, is smelled, and so on. It's by that which experiences it. Otherwise, it cannot appear at all. No world can appear. Nothing can appear without that. That's why it depends on citta, under the power of citta, because it's the chief of experiencing what is there at that any moment right now. Hearing, sound, touching, see, it's a reality, that particular one, which is there. But it does not appear to be known. But when it appears, where's the world? All gone. Because even that reality which experiences the object has no shape and form or anything appear with it at all. So it's moment before seeing, moment before hearing, because the world appears only through 6 ways, only one at a time. But the other realities are there, unknown, until we learn about it. And it depends on whether it appears or not to be known. Like citta right now, whether it appears to be known or not yet. So the object which is experienced appear in life all the time, and taking that which experiences as I, even unknowingly, no thought that it's not I or it's I, it's there. Since no one knows it, so that it's the idea of self, idea of something when the object appears. So the world does not appear as it is because just one moment of experiencing an object, only one object. How can it be like this? Impossible. That's why the intellectual understanding has to be firmer, to be parami, to understand it right now. What is there? A reality experience it all the time, never absent at all. It's there, whether it's known or not, but it also arises and falls away. That's why the great right understanding of the truth has to go deeper and deeper, subtle and more subtle, to let go ignorance, which wrapped up the truth of whatever is now as no one at all. So the appreciation of wholesomeness, no matter of Buddha or the Savaka or the Deva, can be by different conditions to condition moment of calmness. That's why we talk about the reality which experiences the object any moment, not to be forgotten, that without understanding it, there can never be the eradication of the idea of self, because it's there all the time, but it's not known all the time. That's why beginning to think about it, it's there when hardness is there. It experiences such hardness. How hard it is, how soft it is, no matter through any doorway, it is the chief of experiencing. Without it, there's no world, nothing appear at all. So anytime, what is there? Citta is there, experience that. At moment of hardness, it's there. Citta is there, experiencing it. No place for it to be there all the time. It depends on conditions. Without right or very careful consideration, it's impossible to think, even thinking about that which is now experiences. What is there right there? For example, hardness now appearing, it's there, experiencing that hardness. Visible object appears, it's there. It's there because it experiences that object. All around, from moment to moment, it's citta which experiences what is there. When it appears, it means that there must be the reality which is the chief of experiencing it. So it appears no matter what. That's why citta can experience anything, even nibbana. The chief of experiencing, only that function, but everything is under its power. Without it, nothing can be there, can not appear at all. And it's there right now. Moment of seeing anything, citta is there. Experiencing that. So no matter what is there appearing, citta is there. It means that nothing at all. The world is lost, the whole world. Only that which appears to that which experiences it. That is the ultimate truth. No one can make it arise because it's conditioned to arise to perform its function and then gone, never to arise again. in samsara. And nothing can stop the conditioned realities to arise and fall away. Each life just live and then die. What are there in between birth and death? All gone, even right now. But there must be the reality which experiences what is there now appearing. And this is considering about the truth of what is not known yet, even is there to be known. When we heard about Tipitaka talking about its reality, as we have learned, but the reality is there. And the more considering about the truth, it can understand the characteristic of each one clearly, a little clearer. So now, just there is a reality which experiences an object. It's very, very, very little understanding. But the truth is that it's there now, and it experiences what is there now appearing. So no matter where one is, in the bus, in the room, in the kitchen, whatever is there, Chitta experiences that. Begin to think about that, which experience little by little, so it can appear to understanding. Without understanding, it's there. Before seeing, there's no seeing, but no thought about what is there, which is there. No sight, no sound, nothing at all, only that. When the question is what is there, how to answer, no understanding of that as a reality, no shape, no form, nothing appear with it at all. But it's the reality which is there as life, living being, experiencing the object which is not known. Like at moment of birth and death, and while there's no experiences to any one of the six ways at all. It's just like now. The understanding of the truth develops to understand what is there right now, because it's so real. At moment of seeing, nothing is there, only the object which is seen. And there can be the moment of understanding the reality which experiences little by little. Thinking about moment of birth is there unknown. So when the object does not appear, it's there, experiences an object. Learn to understand that which has no shape, no form, no color, no rupa with it at all. And not any cetasikas appear. So that is the pure reality which directly experiences an object. Right now, anytime, anywhere, whatever object is. Even at moment of Devanusati, Tevatanusati, there can be moment of understanding the truth by conditions. Who knows what would be the next moment? Impossible, but it's there by conditions. Anytime, one after the other, by conditions. So learn to understand the nature of that which now experiences an object, not to be forgotten. Otherwise, it is not the closer and closer moment to understand the reality which is there right now. No shape, no form, like moment of birth, as like moment of being fast asleep, nothing appear, and then something appear. Because it's the nature which arises and experiences an object. When the object is unknown, it does not experience the object through the six ways. But when something conditioned for it to experience that which impinges on it, or the object of it, it experiences that, and then everything gone. Very short. See, it's so short. And then is there again the chief of experiencing the object, ready to experience the new or the next object which impinges on one of the six ways. Rasa is there. So when understanding gets closer to the truth of what is there as the experiencing, not just the object which is experienced, which appear to be known.
Thank you, Ajahn. That was all very helpful. And I think that I'm very blessed, so many opportunities for appreciation of kusala this morning from early. So many friends showed so much kindness and generosity, and now the opportunity to appreciate kusala here as well. So thank you very much, Anumodana.
I appreciate your understanding very much.
Thank you, Ajahn. And I see Lucas is here today. Lucas, do you have any comments you would like to make, or any topic you would like to bring up?
Maybe let's talk maybe next week, because I couldn't sleep, so I just went down, to just well, the time is gone now, isn't it?
And how are you now, Lucas?
I'm okay, just can't sleep, but well, yeah.
It's
I
all
need
gone.
to study more Dhamma, that would be good,
One time in India when I was up all night because I was sick, and the next morning friends were mentioning it to Ajahn, and her comment was, it's all gone. So the sleepless night, the problems of yesterday, all gone. And life is always back to this moment. So now at a moment of appreciation of goodness, or at a moment of understanding, then no concern, no worry about the sleeplessness or the difficulties of this or that. So life is always back to this moment, letting go of all that has happened in the past. So even now, like you said, there must be more study of Dhamma. So even now, whilst listening, whilst considering, this is what is so very helpful and beneficial. No need to think about how there must be more study in future, or how I must do this or that, because it's now at this very moment of understanding or appreciation. So we appreciate that you are here and listening now, Lucas.
Yeah, thank you.
Sita, I was just going to add one comment. Last week you were mentioning about a passage that was unclear in the Visuddhimagga, and there were some comments about the eye, chaku, relishing the visible object and so on. And I was reminded when I was writing in a topic about the simile of the two rams butting together, and how the eye, chaku, is one and visible object is the other. But as I mentioned in the post here, the chaku, the eye, it's not referring to eye sense, but to seeing. So chaku is short for chaku vijnana. So I think in the example you gave as well, when it mentions the chaku experiencing or relishing the visible data, it's referring to the eye consciousness, because the eye sense doesn't experience anything. So here in this context, chaku is referring to the moment of seeing now, which experiences what is visible. And there has to be the coming together of all three, the visible object, which impinges on the eye sense and the seeing. But when they're referring to the contact and the experiencing together, they're particularly referring to the moment of seeing.
Yes, that makes sense, because I was confused about the eye, that physical eye relishing. So yes, that's thank you. Yeah.
It's just the same as in the simile in the Milinda Panha. It's referring to the eye consciousness by Chaku.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. Well, I've been listening to a recording this morning, and I'm a bit confused about sense door, mind door, because I heard someone say that sense door covers up the mind door. However, I thought it was the other way around, mind door covering up sense door. So I'm not sure now. Which one is it?
So without any understanding or much understanding like now, it seems that seeing lasts. It seems that there's always the seeing of what is visible, always the hearing of what is sound. There's not the understanding. It's just a brief moment that arises and falls away. So the world seems light all the time, because it seems that what is visible is seen all the time. So it's as if the sense door covers up the mind door. It seems that there is the light world appearing all the time, instead of appreciating that actually most of the time there is thinking through the mind door. So there is the mind door experiencing all the time, but interrupted with sense door processes. Actually, the Bhavanga Citas all the time, interrupted by sense and mind door processes, but many, many more mind door processes and sense door processes. So when the understanding develops, when it's of the degree of Vipassana Jnana, then it becomes clear that it's the mind door that covers up the sense door. It's understood what is sense door and what is mind door. It's understood the world is not light all the time, that seeing arises and falls away. And afterwards, it's the thinking about the color, the light, the shape, the form, the person, and so on.
Yes, I find that hard to understand in a way, because, as you say, it does seem like there's light all the time, but there's thinking about what is seen. So, well, there's no good trying to work it out. I mean, it has to be the developed and highly developed understanding that knows the difference between mind door and sense door. I mean, that's a highly developed panya that knows the difference between the two of them.
Understands even now, as soon as there's impression of color or shape or form, this is not the eye door, this is the mind door.
Yeah.
Even before there's any words or ideas, just the impression of something there through the mind door.
I suppose one way of looking at it, Azita, would be to say that, well, we take for being let me think about this. Yeah, we take for being a sense door experience, that is the seeing now, what is being seen now. What we take for being a sense door experience, namely what is being seen now, is actually mind door thinking.
Right.
So we'd say, okay, there's seeing all the time, and what is seen is people and things. Whereas in reality, there are, as Sarah said, relatively few moments of sense door experience and many, many, many moments of mind door experience that conceptualize about what has been seen. So in that
Yes,
sense,
yes, that makes sense.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
thank you. Yeah. Oh, by the
Um,
way, Sarah, happy birthday. Your photos were wonderful.
Thanks,
Scary,
Zita.
in fact, in that
I've
rough
been-
ocean.
And
Yeah,
I like
like-
this.
Um,
And I like the similes that the Buddha gives about how it's like we're swimming through the ocean with its rips and sharks and strange creatures. And this is the ocean of ignorance and attachment. And the only way through is the development of understanding.
right. Yep.
Yes. Now, I've been very, people have been very kind here this end.
Great. Good one. Well,
just getting back
Go on.
to your question just briefly, but however, just
can't hear you.
sorry, thanks, Azita. I think as Sarah said that when vipassana jnana is a certain level of vipassana jnana is attained, then the mind door covers up the sense door, but I'm not sure that it's correct to say it covers up there, because there should be more clarity if it's a
Yeah.
level of vipassana. So that I would think it's probably better just to say the mind door becomes more apparent for what the doorways become more apparent for what they are.
Right. Yep. Thank you. And then just this morning, again, listening to this, it was from 2016, and there was talk about the Dhamma produced fire element. And I presume that if it's Dhamma produced fire element, it's not out there, but it's produces, Dhamma produces the fire element within the body. And Achan was talking about it. She went on to say producing different coloured skins, and then then I thought, well, okay, dark skin cooked beautifully, light skin underdone was was what I came up with, but I hadn't not thought about the fire element producing so many different things, because it obviously not skin, but it must be other things within the body. But I found that quite interesting.
I think it's probably a reference to discoloration of the skin, whether one's skin is light or dark. The fire element can produce a discoloration from the norm,
Discoloration, right?
make it darker or redder or whatever.
I like cooked and undercooked better. Anyway, yeah, that's. Oh, I continued on actually with Visuddhimagga, and I'm now on to. Well, I won't read it out. It goes on to birth, all sorts of birth, and I actually thought it felt like a horror story, because I don't know if you've it goes through the truth of suffering, and this is in the chapter on the description of the faculties, etc. And each description of birth that is given is really horrible. Birth in wherever, because not only it's not only the actual birth, but it's what comes after the birth, what produces the patisantijita. And maybe I've just taken on too much of it, but it was actually very good, even though it read like a horror story, because I thought, well, this is why the Buddha said birth is suffering. And it really gives a very good description. If anyone wants to go on and read it, it gives a great description on why birth is suffering. I don't have a question about it. It was just a comment that it's a horror story.
it's suffering of a certain kind or at a certain level, isn't it? But it's not.
Yeah.
It's not quite the deepest level of dukkha as we understand sankhara dukkha.
Right. Yes. It didn't mention, because sankhara dukkha is the impermanence, isn't
Right.
it? Yeah, the impermanence of everything.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't have any more questions. Thank you.
And on the topic of the different colored skins and so on, conditioned by karma, of course, only certain groups of rupas are conditioned by karma, but in every group, there is the fire element and there is the hardness. There are the rupas that arise in each kalapa. So they're there in each group, conditioning the other rupas in that group conditioned by karma. For example, in body sense, the body sense is conditioned by karma, but besides the body sense rupa and the Chivitindriya rupa, there must be the 8 rupas that arise in every group of rupas. So heat and hardness are always there together in every group, conditioning the other rupas, like the body sense that arise in that kalapa. But on these 2 topics, perhaps Ajahn would like to add more comments.
Where's the color and how it come to be such and such different color? See, there must be conditions for whatever arises to be different too, by different conditions. What about the fruit and the tree, and no matter the car or whatever, is there any color in it, with it?
Yes,
In each group.
Okay, for the tree, durian, mango, what condition that to be different because it just grew up from the ground? And what is there in the ground to condition such different things, different kind of fruits and flowers? Does it have karma to condition it to be different?
No,
That,
no, I don't.
so what is conditioned for such different colors and tastes?
Well, I understand it's the heat, the heat element.
See,
Yeah.
so there's no doubt about why at moment of birth there is also the 8 rupa, and with other rupa like female and male and so on, as different from just the tree and the flower. That's why what can condition the different taste and smell of fruit or tree? It's there condition such different, while it develop on and on, it shows up as different kind of skin, see, to be known, like the mango and the tree and the durian. Is it possible? What condition that? And karma is there condition the rupas with such and such quality as the taste and the color with the 4 primary rupas.
But gamma only produces the rupas of the body, no?
And is it different, the kusala karma and the kusala karma? That's why when it grows up, it is a human being or a fish or a dog.
Yes, yes, it's different.
By what? Rupa conditioned by karma. And to condition the other moment when it develops or grows up.
I think maybe I've got confused because what I heard was the Gamma produced fire element. But if we go back to Galapas, like the 8 Rupas in one Galapa, all of them are produced by the one Gamma. They're not produced by, that one Galapa is produced by one Gamma, no?
Okay. And is there fire element in the Rupa, which is conditioned by karma?
Yes, Achan.
And karma is different. So the dhatu of the Rupa is different by karma too.
Right,
Even fire element.
yes.
That's why when it grows up, it conditions different shape, color, form.
Yes.
Can the ant grow up to be like a dog?
No, Achan, cannot.
By what? By what?
Well, by Gamma.
It
by
is
karma.
Rupa. But the fire element conditioned by karma produce the shape in the future to be as animal, different kinds of animal, and different appearance of different people conditioned by different karma. Is it possible? That's why what are conditions for rupa, kamma, citta, uttu, and ahara?
Yes, Achan. Yes.
Anyone? Yes, please.
So back to the Galapas of the body, of this body. So we've just been discussing the fire, Gamma produced fire element. So is there also Gamma produced earth element? There must be. How does that manifest? What?
Are they together?
They're in the one Galapa, yes.
Indivisible.
Yes.
Wherever is fire, there must be the other elements too.
Yes, Achan.
Only fire. But what conditions the rupa? For example, the tree and the flower, what condition it?
Just the fire element.
So
It
the
can't
fire
have Gamma, Jita, or, well, Utu, Ahara, I'm not sure, but definitely fire element.
So
Or
now,
the-
so now we are talking about the conditions of rupa. One condition is techo dhatu, right? The fire element. We are
Yes.
talking just about one kind of element. But there cannot be just the fire element. There must be other elements arising together. Indivisible rupas, 8 indivisible rupa. So at that moment, karma conditioned just 5 elements or 8 or more than that because it's conditioned by karma. So it has to be other rupa conditioned by karma with that kalapa too. That's why 8 is just the main and then more and more kalapa with the more rupa in a kalapa than not just only 8.
Yes.
So the karma conditioned rupa more than 8, is that right, in Akalapa?
Yes, I would say yes.
So the rupa which is conditioned by karma, 8 or just 1, or more.
Well, it must be 8
conditioned
or
by
more.
karma.
It must be 8 or more.
Must be more when conditioned by karma, because when conditioned by karma, there must be the 8 indivisible rupas, and there must be Jivitindriya rupa, always
Right.
in a group conditioned by karma. And then, for example, one's talking about eye sense, there must be the eye sense rupa. So always more than 8.
And also, would it be the femininity, masculinity one in that?
So
In
if
that
it's the femininity or masculinity group,
as
then
well?
there must, like at birth and throughout life, there must be the group of 8 plus
Right.
Jivitindriya plus masculinity, or plus Jivitindriya plus femininity, 10
Right.
rupas in that group,
Right.
because there cannot be the body sense and the femininity group mixed together. So in the body sense group, the 8 indivisible, the Jivitindriya and the eye sense. In the femininity, 8 indivisible Jivitindriya and the femininity rupa. But always more than 8 when we're talking about groups conditioned by karma.
Okay. Well, that's that's good to know. Thank you. Thank you, Achan.
No more doubt about fire. But they're different.
At the moment, no, but probably in 10 minutes, yes.
As we know that the fruit and the other rupa is conditioned by heat, right? Why not the heat of Tejotatu or fire in the group of Kamacharupa, the group conditioned by the group of rupa conditioned by karma is there. As karma different, are those rupa different too? Conditioned by karma, different karma. Otherwise, there cannot be different shape and form of ant and fish and monkey at all.
Yes, Achan, it's very complex.
It's
But
true.
Go on, Achan.
Beginning to have confidence of the truth of no one or another depend on conditions. To be an ant or a giant.
Yes. Yes, yes, Achan.
That's why we learn to understand what condition rupa. There are 4 different conditions by karma, by chitta, by uttu, and by ahara.
Yes.
And how many rupas in a group depend on conditions too. When it's conditioned by karma, conditioned by just uttu, or ahara, or chitta. No one, nothing, all are dhammas. Otherwise, how can be letting go, wrong understanding and ignorance, taking something that is not there at all as it's there all the time as I and things and something.
Mm.
Just like the blind, just left no understanding of the truth. The eyes are closed to the truth.
So an example of a galapa with more than 8 would be like Sarah mentioned, the masculinity or femininity and Jivitindriya. So any of the galapas produced by Jitta must also, like Jitta is conditioned for speaking, so that galapa that's produced by Jitta must also have many more than 8 in it. Is that correct?
Are there different voices not the same at all.
Very many different
Right.
voices. Yes.
What condition that such voice to be different?
Well,
Can it arise by itself, or there must be conditions for whatever arises?
well, for a voice to make a sound, that must be
Voice,
well conditioned by jitta, but the different voices that we all have, I would think that was fire element that produced different sounds from individual people.
there must be fire in each group, but why different voices? The female voice, male voice can be known.
Yes, Satan.
What condition that? Just
The-
fire.
No, the either the femininity or the masculinity element. Rupa.
So without such reality, can there be different voice?
No.
Voice
No.
and female voice. That's why we learn to understand each reality as it is, to let go the idea of people and something all the time. Because in truth, it's just conditioned to arise and then falls away instantly. All Adhamas, Sunyata, whatever arises falls away, never to arise again. Anatta and Sunyata, without understanding the truth of each reality which is there, it's impossible to let go the idea of self. It's so very deeply rooted. Ignorance is there. The world appears as so many things around, no matter where and when, just close one's eye, they're gone. They cannot be seen. How come? At moment of opens up one's eye, everything is there. How come? Just close, all gone. And what is the truth? Learn to understand the subtle reality, even right now. Ignorance cannot understand the truth, even it is there as that which is seen. How come to be there, which is seen? What condition that? Can it arise out of the blue? No conditions at all. That's why ignorance cannot understand the truth. So what is meant by enlightenment? The Buddha and his word of truth about whatever is there now. From his enlightenment, the truth of what is there right now as it is. At this moment, seeing is not that which is seen. Who knows? Who think about that? And what is seen is not sound. How come to be different moment? To be moment of hearing, moment of seeing, no moment of thinking. There must be conditions for whatever arises.
And another point, the Zita is at birth, there are 3 groups of rupas from the first moment, conditioned by the same karma that conditions the birth consciousness. And these are the masculinity or femininity group, the body sense group, and the heart-based group. So they all contain the 8 indivisible rupas and also Jivitindriya rupa, and also the other rupa, heart base or femininity or masculinity or body sense. But the tejo, the temperature in that group, then conditions other groups of rupas. So when we're talking about different colors or different skin, so some of these groups of rupas are conditioned by karma and some are conditioned by the temperature in those groups themselves. on and on. And another point was when we're talking about the groups conditioned by citta, actually it can just be a group of the 8 indivisible rupas, or it can be a group of 9 rupas with the bodily intimation, or it can be the group of 10 with the speech intimation and the sound, or a group of 11 with the 3 rupas like lightness. So it can be 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, or 13 rupas in the group conditioned by citta. Because citta can condition groups when there's no speaking or no voice or no movement, like moments of breath conditioned by citta. Just the groups of 8 rupas, those moments. No moving of the arms, no speech, no bodily intimation at all.
Yes, I had forgotten about citta, breath being produced by citta. I mean, I think I had forgotten it because it was, you know, people who concentrate on the breath. It's not the real breath. And then I remember there was talk about it being the most subtle of all meditative practices.
So apart from a few exceptions, every citta in life, almost every citta in life conditions
the breath.
Yes, at each moment.
Yeah,
quite different from the conventional idea of breath.
Very much so, yes.
Sarah, can a group be conditioned by both karma and citta, or it can only be conditioned by one or the other?
Only one or other. So throughout life, karma is producing groups of rupa, and citta is also producing groups of rupas throughout life, but different groups conditioned by karma and by citta.
And in the case of the voice, apart from citta, karma plays no role.
So the actual group of rupas that is conditioned by citta when speaking, the 8 indivisible rupas and the speech intimation and the sound. So this group is just conditioned by citta. But if karma hadn't produced the rupas that we may refer to as the vocal cords or the body sense at that point, then no matter what citta, what intention arises with citta, no sound would be made. So we can see how complex the different groups of rupas are, and how what is conventionally called the sound of the voice, like the deep male voice or the female voice, it doesn't just depend on the group conditioned by citta, the intention to speak, but the sound of my voice is quite different from the sound of Jonathan's voice because of other groups of rupas conditioned by karma.
So let's say the body sense in what we call the vocal cord, because it's produced by karma, so it also affects, it conditions the rupas that arise with it, so that makes any sound coming from that sound different, right?
So they talk about the impact of the hardness on the hardness, for example. So we can see that it's quite intricate.
Yes, it is.
And if someone has a cold, then the sound or the quality of the voice is different. So the intention to speak, the intention to say certain words is exactly the same, but it's affected by that health condition.
So in that case, Utu conditions, affects or influences the vocal cords Yeah, so many things. Yes.
Yes,
Very,
yes.
very intricate. indeed.
Very intricate. So we cannot pinpoint, but we know that when there's intention to speak, chitta is conditioning that intimation and those rupas, but we know that karma is also conditioning other groups of rupas, like in the vocal cords. And as you say, temperature is also conditioning nutriment too. Nutriment also conditions groups of rupas. If one hasn't eaten or has eaten something very oily, it also conditions the groups of rupas in the body.
Mhm.
Very intricate.
Thank you. I may have another question, a small one, as I read the Chitta-Sika, the book on Chitta-Sika. And I came across this passage about Karuna. So I will read it here. It says, compassion does not accompany the Mahavipaka Chitta, Chitta which are the result of Kusala Karma of the sense sphere, because compassion has living being as object. So my question is, does that mean that the Chitta, the Kusala Chitta, Mahakusala Chitta with Karuna cannot condition rebirth, or it only means that even when that Chitta condition rebirth, but the Vipaka Chitta, which is the result of that karma, does not arise with Karuna?
The latter, because there can be great karuna, great compassion, like in the Buddha's great compassion, and which can motivate all kinds of good deeds and can bring its result by way of kusala vipaka. But as you say, the mudita just arises with the kusala chittas, with other beings as object.
That's interesting, because in other cases like Panya or Sati, when it arises with the Kusala Chitta that conditions the Vipaka Chitta, then the Sahetuka Vipaka Chitta also has those roots or those Chittasikas with them, but not in the case of Karuna or Mudita.
Metta.
Yeah, metta
Metta,
also, yeah.
Or Lobha Cetasika arises with the kusala vipaka, but metta with beings as object. So there can be so many opportunities for metta and good deeds during the day, which can bring its results.
But in the case of metta, it can, because it's the adosa Chittasika, so it can arise with the Mahavipaka Chitta. No problem.
Yes, but the adosa is the adosa with regard to kindness to other beings, not all kinds of adosa.
Right. Thank you.
Perhaps Sujan may like to add more on this topic.
Is there anyone with the object of karuna at moment of birth?
No one, Ajahn.
Can that be the answer?
Yes. I wasn't unsure whether it can condition the Mahavipaka Chitta or that, but It's because when we think that other cetasikas can arise in the Sahetuka Vipaka but those ones cannot. So I was unsure about why is that so. But yes, because it's no beings as object at the moment of Patisanti Chitta, for sure.
Akusala Chitta is away from all kinds of akusala, right? Otherwise, it has to be akusala. To be just kusala, it needs more cetasikas, wholesome cetasikas, even satta, the purity of mind that akusala reality cannot get close to it at all. That's why just learn to understand as much as that can be understood. But can there be the moment of understanding Patisanti Chitta? But when one sees someone in trouble, what Chitta is there? Is it kusala or akusala? Because of there is that object to be object of just karuna when it's kusala. So kusala Chitta and kusala vipaka is different. Because some cetasika cannot arise at moment of birth, because condition for it is the situation of trouble of someone is there, and so on. As much as we can understand, but we cannot understand all Buddha wisdom, the truth of everything. For example, how many cetasikas right there now? Impossible, because it does not show up. What can be known appears, but how much understanding of the truth of it? Or just no understanding of the truth, understanding just the word we heard. But what about the nature of that? When it does not appear, can it be known without any word? That's why just learn to understand as much of that which appears. Otherwise, there cannot be any understanding of what is now appearing at all. Because thinking about other things, from this to that, and from that to other moment, other reality, again and again in one's life. So is there enough understanding of what is there now as it is? As it is not as it appears.
Sure, there's not enough understanding of what appears now. And by the way, I'd like to ask about the term as it is. Is there any term in Pali? And I think the other day Mai suggested that it could be Intl.Dhamma. Would that be the same like as it is?
Or could it be in truth and reality? That expression appears in the texts.
Okay. In truth and reality. Yes.
Excuse me, Tom, what was you saying? As it is. Was that the expression? As it is.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Right.
I think the expression in truth and reality is used in a slightly different context than when we say Dhamma appearing as it is, but it conveys the same idea. As it actually is.
Yes, definitely. And what about Dhamma? If we just take that term, what is the meaning? What could be the meaning?
I'm not a Pali scholar. I know the Intl.Dhamma bit means in accordance with the Dhamma. So
Yeah, that's what it means, Jonathan. It's following Dhamma in accordance with Dhamma. This is simply what it means. Like that's the fourth of the Sotipatthayanga, or the factors of Sotapatti, or the other three Arya Puggala also. So that last one is called Dhamma Patipada, following Dhamma according to Dhamma, or following Dhamma according to Dhamma as per the path. So yeah, so that word Tambak is following Dhamma. Anu means to follow, literally, or you have to follow. So Dhamma is following Dhamma, yeah, accordingly.
And when it is following Dharma or in accordance with Dharma, it is as it is. It is in truth and reality as it is. So they're all pointing to the truth now.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, they're all good. They're all good points. Yeah, true, and easy to forget. And appreciate the reminder, Sarah. And very happy birthday to you too.
Thank you, Kunsundra, and everyone.
As John said, it's the great blessing to be able to hear Dhamma, which is that's the true gift, and it's a birthday for everybody in a way when there is a renewal, in a sense, when we hear Dhamma, when Dhamma is heard and considered. It's a gift beyond all gifts, which is easily forgotten because we don't truly appreciate it, I believe.
And to be able to share the Dhamma.
Yeah, true, and that's one of the 10 Kusala Kammapatta, of course, too, isn't it? Not only being able to listen, but also to be able to share it or to teach it. You know, that it's another level of Kusala Kammapatta.
And with regard to your point about Karuna and Panya Tam, I'm not sure it's quite as precise as you mentioned, that when there is Panya, then the result is with Panya. We can say this generally, but for example, if the birth, the Kusala Vipaka, is one with no roots, it doesn't mean that karma in the past cannot bring results in that lifetime. Karma with Panya cannot bring results, but no conditions for those results with Panya. So I don't think it's quite as cut and dried. It's a little more complicated than that. So that's why when we hear about Karuna bringing results, or metta, great metta bringing results, but the Vipaka, like from first moment of birth, cannot be with Karuna or metta. So that doesn't seem strange to me. So I don't think it's quite as precise as you suggested.
Okay, yeah, I think that's good. It's good to that you pointed out, because then I think it becomes much clearer on many things as well. Like Kusala Karma, when it is very slight, can condition Vipaka, but with their roots. So yeah, you're right. That's
So
good.
karmas can bring results or can support it during life.
Right. Good. Thank you.
And or Tadao, do you have anything you would like to bring up today?
I don't, Sarah.
I have a question to Jonathan. A few weeks ago, you said something about seeing and visual object. and you said that we somehow guess what seeing is based on our deductive reasoning, given that there is visual object. If there is visual object, then based on deductive reasoning, we somehow guess what seeing is. But you somehow imply that that is a wrong approach. Jonathan, do you not mind just elaborating what you've said?
Well, I can't remember exactly what I said, but I think the gist of what I was trying to say is that to reason that there must be seeing because visible object is appearing is not the same thing as directly knowing seeing and its characteristic. Would that be a fair comment?
So somehow we are quite certain that there are visual objects, and without, even with little panya, we somehow see that there are visual objects, but with a very limited amount of panya, it's so hard to see what seeing is.
Well, I don't think we directly know either visible object or seeing. All we know is that there is a kind of experiencing through the eye door that is different from the experiencing through the ear door. So seeing is different from hearing. We know that. So we know that there must be the experiencing of whatever visible object is, and through the ear door there must be the experiencing of whatever sound is, but there is not the direct knowing of either the experiencing or its object. And so one cannot, and that direct knowing cannot come by focusing on what we take to be seeing and trying to separate out this moment of what we take to be seeing into the component parts of the experiencing and its object. Because what we take to be seeing at this moment is just thinking about the seeing. And so no amount of focusing on that will ever resolve it into sort of what we imagine to be the component parts of experiencing an object. So the direct knowing of either seeing or visible object has to come from the reflection on the Buddha's description of the way things are. And there must be conditions for awareness to arise and take one or other as its object.
Yeah, but it's very difficult.
Very difficult. Well, let's say it doesn't, if we say difficult, it means if we try harder, we might succeed, but it's not a case of trying harder either. Let's say it takes the right conditions. That's all we can say about it. But fortunately, we know what those conditions are, or what are the factors that lead to the arising of the right conditions. As Sundara just mentioned, they are the Sotapattiyanga. And we know that hearing the Dhamma, because of our good fortune of being associated with people who do have understanding of things, like Ajahn. So, and also not only Ajahn, of course, other members of the discussion. Everyone who has an interest in the Dhamma is our good friend, because we're all helping to share what little we do understand with everyone else, and having the opportunity to hear correct description or correct interpretation of the Buddha's teaching and to reflect on that. Gradually over time, these things can become a little clearer.
Today I would just add to what Jonathan said, and I think he made a good point. It's not about trying harder. I think that's very important, and it points to the fact that Dhamma is very, very subtle. And Jonathan also alluded to the fact that we, the chatu or the fourth Sotapadiyanga, which are primary conditions for understanding, which are the meeting of the teacher or the right person, which is I'm just trying to remember the Pali. It's not so important anyway. And then the second factor is so you're able to meet the right person. You hear the Dhamma, hear the Sad Dhamma, and the Sad Dhamma is is the true Dhamma, because people can say they heard Dhamma, but really, is it real? Is it the true Dhamma? That's excuse me. That's another matter. So it always takes an ongoing and careful consideration, which points to the third factor, which is yoniso manasikara, which is the third Sotapadiyanga, and as Tambak just brought up before, this Dhammano Dhamma Patipada, following Dhamma in accordance with Dhamma as it really is, and as Sarah pointed out earlier too, that as it appears now. And that's the only way. We can't hurry that process as much as we want to understand better, or we want to understand more quickly, or we find it difficult. Yes, all those things we may think of, conventionally speaking, but they in themselves are not conditions for all the trying that I just alluded to in those other conventional methods that we sometimes think lead to understanding. They don't. They can't. That's not their nature. They can't do that. It's only by that very careful consideration, moment by moment, which Tanajan offers us with great compassion. Every time she comes on, I'm often, I'm very, very grateful to be able to hear her time and time again, because I heard today in her voice that I imagine it's, as we get older, it becomes more and more difficult. But I'm admiring of her patience and her energy to continually transmit to us what the Dhamma is, because it is truly a great treasure. And so the only way to develop the path is by very careful, ongoing consideration, and as Johnson just alluded to, also with support of other people who help us. And we can't hurry that process. It's just impossible. That's wrong view. If we think we can hurry that.
Sundara, may I interrupt you?
Sure.
The most difficult part is wise consideration, yoniso manasikara. It's so hard. It's so hard.
That's true, but as Sarah would remind you, that when we think like that, that gets in the way of our understanding. I agree, it is hard, but that points to the subtlety of Dhamma. Dhamma is, you can say another word for hard is subtle. It's very, very, very subtle. And because we haven't accumulated that level of panya, people like Sariputta, when you heard those words of Asaji, and I've sometimes read those words, I heard them first in English, and then I looked at the Pali, and I thought that might help, but it doesn't. It's ye Dhamma he tu pitboa. Now, what does it mean to everybody? It's talking to whatever Dhammas that have a condition to arise. Those conditions the Tathagata has spoken about. Now, we know we haven't got the panya to understand that. Well, we can understand a little when we hear those words that it's about conditionality. We have to understand about lopa, dosa, and moha, and we have to also have an understanding of alopa, a dosa, and a moha. They are the hetu. They are the causes that need to be understood. And if those hetu are not understood clearly, as Sariputta did, then it will become more and more difficult. If we try to kind of intellectually understand them, then initially it may be helpful at a certain level, but that's all at the level of Samuti Satya. That level of Paramatta Satya is a very different Dhamma. But to make that leap or to make that transition, which is part of Yoniso Manasikara, there has to be a clear understanding of what the Samuti Satya, the conventional truth, are referring to. And that's what we know as pariyakti. So, which is part of Yoniso Manasikara in a way, that wise consideration of those Dhammas that allude to deeper Dhammas. But that's why we talked about that. It's been brought up again today, these different similes, which of course are at the level of Samuti Satya, but they can facilitate a deeper understanding if there are the right conditions. They can point the way, but there has to be that ongoing consideration of what those pariyatti truths are pointing to. If there is not that ongoing consideration, and it is difficult, I totally agree with you. I think it's impossible. And sometimes I wonder if it is possible. But I have a degree of saddha, which means to hold well, literally means to hold well, then with kusala, of course, but that takes incredible patience, as Tanajan reminds us. This is not that ongoing patience, and patience is difficult too, as we know, in view of sometimes challenging situations. And the Dhamma does challenge in a way, metaphorically speaking. It challenges us
I think we need to continue next time and let Ajahn go, because we're going a little over time. So I think we can continue this topic next time. To down, Sundara. We can start off with it, perhaps.
So
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Ajahn. So